Greetings, friends. Happy Friday. The What's Right show is on. Brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234. That's the number to call if you've been in an accident, if you've been injured, if you need legal advice for an accident, for an injury. 702-820-1234. California, Nevada, California, we've got you covered. So just call Sam & Ash because you deserve what's right. I saw this piece as well, Robbie, caught my eye, of course, in Town Hall. And Gabriella Huffman, she writes this piece. Okay, by the way, her and I have similar backgrounds. Her family, too, is from Eastern Europe. She has grandparents and other family members affected by the Soviet madness. And so she writes this piece reacting to a Cato Institute YouGov survey. And we've talked a lot about various polls in the news and focusing sort of on the momentary ups and downs of Donald Trump and his approval rating, the Democrats, etc. But here's one that ought to worry us all. And that is that in this survey, a majority of Gen Z Americans, our young people, our youths, 64% of which actually say they have a favorable view of socialism. Are you surprised? Well, actually, I'm not, and you probably aren't either. 34% of them, by the way, view communism positively. Now, what Hoffman here goes through and explains, or sort of wonders about it here in her piece, is that Gen Zers have grown up, and I'll quote her here, in the freest, most prosperous time imaginable, with first world luxuries, smartphones, relatively few hardships. And yet, she writes, these kids want central planning in their lives. Do they even know what they're asking for? Ms. Huffman writes. Do they think socialism will work this go-around despite its bloody track record? Now, I agree, of course, with her fully, and I'm going to keep talking about this, folks, until I lose my voice. Because to me, this is central to the fight, not just for our country, for the preservation of the United States of America as we know it, but also of the Western order. Communism has always been, unequivocally, a system intent on destroying the productivity, the social cohesion, family values, and such that has built the West. When we visit Europe, when Americans go and travel to Europe, and by the way, now most countries in Europe, certainly in Western Europe, are a shadow of their former selves. Everywhere you look, you see beautiful things that were built by generations past. I don't know very many people that traveled to Europe and go, oh, look at that beautiful building. Oh, look at that wonderful thing that was just built 10 years ago. They're looking at structures, monuments, skylines constructed centuries past, constructed in an order, in a system, in a values universe that these modern isms and ideologies have sought to destroy. But it's bigger than this. The very essence of freedom is at stake. And this is one of the reasons I always talk about how schools, and forgive me, I rail about this too often. And I explain that the left has set their sights for decades now on our public schools, on our universities. And the radicals have taken over those institutions and have thus been able to indoctrinate generations of young people. Now, here's what happens, right? In spite of their efforts, and I know this firsthand, I went to a public school, a high school, middle school, elementary school, and spent a little bit of time in a public university before I went private. And even in the private institution was faced with professors who were leftists. Obviously there were kids around me, fellow students, who were influenced by it, who bought into it. And many of them wisened up over time as they got out in the real world and realized that much of what their idiotic professor or teacher, whoever, was teaching them, telling them over the years was bunk. Because it is bunk. Now, when I went to college, when I was even in high school, honestly, I had a healthy amount of skepticism in me because, of course, my parents at home taught me the truth. Not everybody has the benefit of that. I knew when a teacher was out of his or her depth. I knew when a teacher was an ideologue, was a propagandist. And I have this observation. I come back to it often because it's so true. My conservative teachers in my schools and my conservative professors, by the way, I knew who they were. It's like a secret society, handshakes and all, a little wink, wink. I would say something in class and they would nod, but not say much. They all hid and largely didn't advertise their ideology. They didn't present history in an ideological way. Guess what happened instead? It was the radical leftists that were loud, and they sucked up all the oxygen in the room. And this has been, I think it's changing right now, the fundamental problem of the right. We have been, up until this time, in the era of Trump, complete and utter wimps. We don't stand up. We have this misguided idea that, these institutions need to stay neutral and and we need to strive for neutrality. Well, we're pushing for neutrality at the very same time that the opposition, the radical left, is playing for keeps. They want it all. It's interesting when you think about it. If one side is pushing just to center and the other side is pushing all the way to their side of things, who do you think is going to win? We have to begin, and I think we have to play for keeps because our entire life as we know it can be lost. Imagine if the next several generations of Americans think in an overwhelming majority of opinion here that socialism is a good thing. And by the way, it's not just here. Young people in Great Britain, in other countries, in Canada, think the same. There's a reason why the United Kingdom recently, it was last week or so, they dropped the voting age. The Liberal government dropped the voting age to 16. Why? Because, of course, they see young people as a source of power. Let's let 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds who have been indoctrinated by the very system that we have supported come out and vote and support our idiocy. Self-perpetuating madness is what I call it. And enter into it now these Democrats that are coming out of the shadows like Mamdani, who has decided that it is okay to call himself a democratic socialist, to use the word. What used to be taboo now is a badge of honor. Now, I think it's good that they're no longer hiding it. Come out and tell us who you are. I'm just worried about the cost to our country, the damage to our country that will be done by these people before the public at large wakes up, before all these young skulls full of mush, as Rush would call them, students who have been indoctrinated, propagandized by their teachers, their teachers union card waving fanatic liberal leftist goobers, before these kids wake up and go, oh my gosh, what do you mean I wanted to get a banana at the state-run grocery store. What do you mean you don't have any bananas today? That's crazy. I want a banana now. What kind of damage will have to be done before the people realize that they're wrong? And it's the wrong thinking for us, common sense conservatives, American patriots, proponents of capitalism, to go, well, let's let them destroy things a bit and then we'll see. We did that the last 4 years. Okay, they don't want Trump. Let's show them what Joe Biden can do. Wow, we almost lost our country, folks. It almost all went away in just 4 years. In fact, I have a thought on this when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. The What's Right Show brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. No communists at Sam & Ash Injury Law. That much I can guarantee. Be back after this.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Let me propose the thought that I was going to get across this way. Folks, if you're just tuning in, here on the What's Right Show, we are lamenting the fact that hot off the presses, apparently 64% of America's Gen Z think that socialism is good. Imagine that insanity. Now, here's the question I would have. Isn't it better, cheaper, less disruptive if we just teach a generation of young Americans that socialism is bad? We just teach them objectively that of all the isms of the 20th century, the most deaths, the most misery, 100 million people, plus minus, dead as a consequence of socialism, communism, that leftist revolutions consumed basically a third of what is the entire United States in a relatively short period of time. It was the greatest meat grinder of human history. Wouldn't it be cheaper, easier, less painful to just teach a generation of youths that every single place that the economic principles of communism and socialism were tried, misery followed? Wouldn't it be better to just go back to teaching basic Econ 101 in high school? I don't like the thinking that some of us have, conservatives have, where they say, well, okay, well, if they want Mamdani, just okay, fine, just let them have Mamdani. And you know why I don't like that? Because it's very easy for us to say, well, here in Vegas, we have our own New York. We have New York, New York. Thank you, MGM. Corner of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard. We have our own New York, and the real New York, if they want to, bring in a commie pinko to run the place, so be it. Okay. You don't think there's a trickle-down effect of destroying the most important economic center that's already on its way to being completely destroyed, finishing it off? You don't think there'll be an effect on our city here in Las Vegas? There will be, number one, of course. Number two, we have an entire body of history of communist failure, socialist failure, Democrat failure. And yet people will vote for it over and over again nonetheless. the failure will have to be so big and so monumental to get through to the right amount of people, but at which point we may not have a democracy anymore. This is I think, my most important point. To preserve our country, do people understand that what these socialists and democratic socialists, whatever you want to call them, these radical left-wingers, do people understand that their end game is to have a democracy in name only? That their end game is a consolidation of political power such as that ordinary Americans do not have a choice in who they vote for? That people are compelled, as they were in these communist regimes, to vote for only one candidate? Here's how the communists took power in my parents' country. I think it's instructive. In a power vacuum that occurred at the end of World War II, in the wake of a terrible occupation, Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia, and with great support from the Soviet Union, Czech communists essentially seized power and within one political cycle outlawed every opposition party. Now, people will say, and I've heard this in class, oh my gosh, side note, occasionally I would have professors and teachers in high school tell me things that were so idiotic. Like, just, Robbie, and you experienced this too, and we were at one point in the same high school, and we could probably name some people, probably had the same teachers, okay, that would say things that were so blatantly idiotic. And I was the kid, of course, in the back of the room, not always in the back, sometimes in the front, who just would say, "You're wrong," to the teacher. You're wrong. I was not the favorite of my liberal teachers, I can tell you this. But one of the things that I vividly remember is in high school, I had a teacher tell me, "Sam, communist," I just dropped my pen, "communist countries they're democracies. The people vote. And did you know, Sam, that more people vote in the Soviet Union than they vote even in our country? They take democracy so seriously in the Soviet Union that they vote." I'm like, yeah, there's only one party. There's a slate of candidates. And if you don't vote, you haven't done your socialist duty. You're probably going to get shot. I mean, I guess if you should, not going to name her name, Mrs. X. Mrs. X, do you think that we should just summarily execute people who don't vote in the United States? I think we could probably get more people to the polls if we did that. I was such a dick. Well, anyway, Mom, Dad, I just had, if you're listening, I want, some of the C's that I got weren't just because I did poorly on tests. I promise. Okay. All right. Okay. So I know. Look, what I'm getting at here is there's a misconception about this, right? And it comes from terrible things that are taught about this that are manifestly wrong. But also, the past will repeat itself. Socialism isn't new. It might seem like the new fun, shiny thing. It might have a little sparkle and a little glitter. But guess what? It's already been tried, and every time it's been tried, it's been a disaster. And when we come to the subject of voting, the end goal is to have single-party rule. And the Democrats, in their own way, were already effecting this plan. When you look at the totality, and we spoke yesterday about how, the Democratic, vast patronage network, and whether that is DEI, whether it's even the homeless industrial complex and the vast sums of money that pour through that, USAID, etc. All of this designed to build political power, opening the borders, etc. These people, the left, is the most totalitarian and dangerous of all the isms. And all they do is run around and yell, Nazi, 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 fascist. But if they get to power, trust me, they are the dangerousest, most scariest totalitarians of them all. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, back in a jiff. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Proud American, devout anti-communist, freedom fighter, an all-around great guy at your service. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm going to tell you what would happen to Twitter when the Democratic Socialists come to power. It's not going to be pretty. They'll nationalize it and turn it into NPR. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. Now, one of these stories here, if we're going to talk about socialists, we're going to talk about these commie pinkos. One of the stories this week is this piece about the Kansas City grocery store. We have the clip. We have this. Okay, so Mamdani, the very dangerous, not to be underestimated, Ugandan immigrant to the U.S. who has got a slick look and a silver tongue, and he's taking New York by storm. He's going to be the mayor of New York. It's probably going to happen, folks. What am I going to tell you? And it matters to you, and it matters to me, even if we don't live in New York, because he is the start of a very dangerous movement. It's actually not even the start of it. If you look at the Squad, Ilhan Omar, AOC, this has already been growing for a while. Bernie Sanders basically now is probably has a stiffy over how what he has been preaching, his communist ideology is finally taking root. And so, look, pay attention, folks. So anyway, this grocery store, here's the clip, because they actually said, okay, so Mamdani wants to have state-run grocery stores. He wants people to shop at state-run grocery stores, take out the profit incentive, remove the capitalism from the business, and people can have cheaper groceries. That's the proposition. So it's been tried. Kansas City tried it. And a news crew goes out there and films what the result was.
It's clear this Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect is struggling. This is the first section people see when they
empty
come
shelves.
in. There's barely any
if you
produce.
can't see anything.
A lot of the coolers and shelves around the store look the same way, empty. So shoppers have been asking us, if the store isn't closing, then where is all the food? A rotten smell comes through the door, and anywhere you turn, you'll see products that need to be restocked. No hot food or deli.
I watch people walk in and walk out.
The grocery store has received financial assistance from the city, but has been unable to keep those shelves stocked in an area that in the past has often been referred to as a food desert.
Around here, a good thing don't last too long.
And it will impact a lot of people and a lot of families.
The city owns the Linwood Shopping Center. A nonprofit operates the grocery store.
Okay. You know what stood out to you, Robbie, in this clip? I know what stood out to me from my own personal experience, and it's when the reporter here, so a local reporter in Kansas City going through the store, like, what the hell's going on? What stood out to me is that you walk in and you smell stuff rotting, the rotten smell. Why? Well, when I was a kid, and remember, for me, I was, a quick refresh, I don't want to dwell on this, but, when I was 9, the Iron Curtain fell in Europe. My parents were both refugees that escaped communism and fled to the West. They left Czechoslovakia in 68 during the Prague Spring, and did not return back until 89 and 90, my dad and my mom, respectively. So I returned with my father, then with my mother, and started regularly visiting my parents' homeland as a young man, okay? Boy, 10 years old, 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm visiting the country. Communism, socialism, the system didn't just abruptly end. There's a new government. You couldn't be thrown into jail. I mean, immediately there were some civil, freedoms and liberties that were enacted. But the unwinding of the socialist system took a while, as you might imagine. And so there were government-run stores. Now, I was a kid from Irvine, California, the land of perfect. Everything is manicured. How many grocery stores do we have? Well, they're on every corner. We don't like that store because they don't carry this thing. So we go to the other store. We have Trader Joe's. We have, back then it was, I think, Alpha Beta and Albertsons and, and Stater Brothers. And we had a Costco or whatever version of it was before. Price Club, I think is what it was called. That was the world I lived in. Okay? I get to Czechoslovakia before it split into two, Czech Republic. I get to Czechoslovakia. Free country, but still with the communist system. And I walk by these stores and I see stuff rotting in the windows. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm curious, right? And I'm just a kid. And my grandfather goes, well, yeah, I mean, they don't care if they sell it or don't sell it. I said, what do you mean they don't care? Well, the person that works at the store is a government employee. Look at her. She's sitting in there. She doesn't care. She gets paid whether she does the work or not. When you see the empty shelves in this report, and you're not going to hear this anywhere else, folks, everybody goes, oh, hard because they can't get stuff in the store. The stuff may be in the back. The stuff could be sitting on a pallet in the back in the warehouse space of the store. What is the incentive for the government employee to put it on the shelf? Right, it's a rhetorical question. There is none. That's the point of this. The capitalist system, for whatever faults it may have, is the best way of managing incentives, rewards, okay, and benefits to the worker, to the consumer, and to the business owner. That's the trifecta. And they all, in a capitalist system, need to stay happy. Without good labor, the business fails. Without a happy customer, the business fails. Without an owner willing to invest in the business to make money, gosh forbid, the business fails. That's the beauty of it. And for every abusive story where the people are being exploited or the customers is okay, for all of that, what system delivers what you need when you need it at the best possible price? It ain't communism. That's the issue. I would walk into stores as a kid, and there'd be stuff on the shelves, and they're like, oh, sorry, we're not open today. So what do you mean you're not in? Oh, we're doing inventory. Inventory? I didn't even know what that word was. You think that Albertsons closes for a day to do inventory? Why did they do inventory? It was an excuse. Now, by the way, she was sitting there doing a crossword puzzle. It was an excuse to just not work that day. You could take, by law, the government said for every X number of weeks or once a month, whatever, you could close for inventory. Hell yeah, I'm going to close. You know what? That day I'm going to close for inventory. I got something I want. I need a mental health break, said whoever was working that store. And it didn't matter if it was a big store, if it was a small store. I remember visiting the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia back then. This would have been probably, I don't know, like I was 10 now. It was 1990. And we walk in the store, of course, empty shelves. And the stuff, the food that, my family had, they were all, professionals, right? Should be making fine money. Socialism, nobody went hungry. I was always hungry. There wasn't enough food. There wasn't enough of anything. It was fascinating. I came in there and I had dollars. I had like $20 or $30 that I had as a kid, which was a lot of money for a 10-year-old to save up over time. I had that saved up. And I would trade it. Back then it was like $1 to 40 Czech crowns. Now it's 1 to 20, okay? 40. So I had all this Czech money, like hundreds of Czech crowns. And I would go in, and you couldn't buy anything with it. You had the money, but you couldn't buy anything. Because the government decided how much yogurt they were going to produce that year. And if the population wanted more yogurt, well, then tough luck. I think the most amusing thing about this Gen Z story, Robbie, is this is the most consumption-driven generation America's ever had. They want the latest and greatest, best of the best. They want the newest fad. They want the iPhone. They want, now we don't want iPhone. Now we want digital cameras. We want, retro. We want to buy it here. We want to buy it that. We want to make this, make that. They are consumers to the max. And these people are like, oh yeah, we want socialism, where the government's going to tell you, new iPhone? How about an iPhone 2? Yeah, and we're gonna make 5,000 of them when they're out. Tough luck, kiddos. That's how it's gonna be. Mark my words. Again, history always repeats itself. It's a tale as old as time. So let's talk about Mamdani and his plans. Yeah, shall we? Back in a moment. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your injury case. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. My gosh, Trump is just hilarious lately. I think he's evolving into his best form. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Just real quick before we get to the socialism taking over young America and a socialist mayor well on his way to being in power in New York. Trump was about to take off from the White House lawn. He's got the helicopter running in the background, and they ask him about the French president, Emmanuel Macron. And they ask him, apparently he has declared his support for a free Palestinian state, two-state solution, right? Stuff going on in the Middle East, etc. This is Trump's response to it.
Counterproductive to France, for France to say that they would recognize the Palestinian state. Macron said that yesterday.
Look, he's a different kind of a guy. He's okay. He's a team player, pretty much. But here's the good news. What he says doesn't matter. It's not going to change it. Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy. I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
Who cares what Emmanuel Macron has to say? Look, he's a different kind of guy, says Trump. He's okay. He's a team player, but what he says doesn't matter. Oh, my gosh. Of course, Macron locked now in a legal battle with Candace Owens. No, I'm not going to talk about it again. It's such, if you missed yesterday's show, it's such a bad move. Can you imagine being the president of a country? Any country. It could be Angola for all I care. And you're coming in and you're filing a lawsuit against some nut job conservative podcaster because she's calling your wife a tranny. Oh, gosh, my goodness. You know how many times, do you know how many slanderous things people have said about me, written about me, people with big followings, right? And I'm flattered at the end of the day that they know I exist and are bothered by me like that, like that. Hey, just imagine, Robbie imagined if I just got all uptight and started filing lawsuits against people. Yeah, like occasionally I'll even give you an example. I'm digress. It's a legal take. It's Friday. Let me have a little bit of fun with this. You know, I had a crazy, insane client for whom we bent over backwards. Actually, we represented his wife. And we did a great job. Now, there was another firm that advertises here heavily in Las Vegas that had the case before us, and they objectively screwed the pooch on this case. Like they messed up a lot of things. We came in, we cleaned it up, we reduced our fees, we made it work. The wife was happy. End of story. We thought. When the psycho husband, controlling husband, comes along and starts demanding completely unreasonable things and actually being mean, nasty, and rude to my partner. Don't do that. Just a tip, pro tip. Don't be a jerk. And particularly don't be a jerk to a really good, kind person who's worked very hard on your case. So I, of course, tell him to go pound sand. And the next thing I know, I get all of these, I'm not getting into it, but creating websites and all the stuff that he's just out there on some sort of jihadi mission against me, against Ashley, against my firm. I'm like, I'm not going to dignify any of this with the response. I just ignore it. Nobody cares. My business is up. Whatever mental problems he has is none of my concern. Oh yeah, he filed a bar complaint too, and the state bar looks at it and goes, "Hey, these guys did everything right. I don't know what your problem is." Like, sorry. So I'm done. It's not in my mental space. I'm remembering it now because it's an example of how sometimes when you file a lawsuit, just filing the lawsuit, defamation, you may be absolutely right. Candace Owens is crazy. But drawing attention to now I'm talking about it. How many times have I talked about, the First Lady of France having a penis? Never. I've never brought it up. I'm not saying she does. I actually think that she's just an old, ugly woman. Okay. Mamdani. So he's not ugly. He's not a woman. He's actually a good-looking guy, and don't underestimate him. I've been saying this now for a while. I remember when I first began talking about him when it was getting close to the Democratic primary, and a lot of you started writing me and telling me, "Sam, this guy's not going to win. He's not going to win." Now, here's, by the way, played for you the Kansas City grocery store, the empty shelves, talk to you about my experiences from post-communist Czechoslovakia. Here's Mamdani talking about his grand plan to bring socialism to New York City by way of government-run stores.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
He's in a private-run grocery store with the shelves packed full of goods. Won't it be funny when he gets elected, gets his way, and has a government-run store, and we'll all go in there and go, "Ha, ha, ha, it's empty shelves." I think it's going to be lost on people. I think the most important thing, by the way, absolutely, honestly, now to begin educating young people. And if you're a conservative teacher, I'm going to say this, make this point. If you're a conservative teacher, I understand. For example, if you're in Clark County schools, I know you're probably surrounded by like the Viet Cong, okay? Like I get it. That doesn't mean that you don't get up there and go Trump, but explain economic principles. Tell the kids your life experience. share a different view than maybe the mainstream view. I mean, somebody's got to. If you get through to one or two or three different kids, make all the difference in the world. I'm just saying. So, I'm not a teacher. I'm just a guy on the radio who also practices law. I have 3 kids, and when I do this whenever I go back to Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic, and I take them through the areas. This is what it looked like. This was our family's factory that was destroyed. Look, it's gone now. It's gone. This is what happened. Here's who went to to camps. I took them through all of it. I'm going to play one last Mamdani clip here just to tell you how good he is. He was going on vacation to Uganda, and he got ahead of the news cycle with this funny clip.
Being a politician means listening, not just to your supporters, but your critics too. And some of these critics, especially on a certain website, have been giving me consistent advice. For example, @SamWhite087. Zohran, go back to Uganda, where you come from and belong.
These are from Twitter.
Gone. Loser, go back to Africa. There are thousands like this from across the country. I hear you. And I agree. I'm going back to Uganda. I'm headed there in a personal capacity to celebrate Rama and I's marriage with our family and friends. But I do want to apologize to the haters, because I will be coming back. And since you will undoubtedly read about this trip in the New York Post, inshallah on the front page, here are a few of my humble suggestions for headlines. MIA, Mamdani in Africa. Uganda miss me. He's completely crazy. The Afra can't be serious. Carl Kampala-Neely investigates Mamdani. Zoe running away.
Yeah, this is good, folks. Not going to lie. It's winning people over. First comes the friendly smile, then come the gulags. Prepare yourselves. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., here on News Talk 840 KXNT. Good to be with you here, as always. My email that you can reach me at, sam@whatsrightshow.com, sam@whatsrightshow.com, and of course on X, formerly known as Twitter, @whatsrightsam. Follow me there. I do occasionally post show news and pithy commentary that is there for your viewing pleasure. By the way, too, support Elon Musk, support the site. It's played an outsized role in the Trump revolution. Whatever your momentary angst might be with Mr. Musk, know that he preserved free speech, or at least did more than any other one individual in the past couple of years to preserve that. So it's a free account. Go on there, support him. The more users he has, the more valuable Twitter is. You don't have to pay anything. You can follow all of your favorite people, which of course means that I hope I, Sam Mirejovsky, host of the What's Right show, @What'sRightSam, make the cut. Now, well, I know I've just spent an hour talking about the horrors of socialism. Everywhere socialism has been tried, it has failed. You know what we haven't checked in on in a while? All the capitalist successes. And I'll tell you, by the way, the worst for capitalism is when Democrats, left-wing politicians come in and try to modify capitalism with layers of leftist socialist restrictions. It's the worst, actually. I mean, well, not as bad as obviously full-blown communism, but it is. And when you take a country like Argentina, which for decades suffered under the heavy burden of socialist destruction, it was, on its face, a free market, but burdened by enormous government regulation, all with the purpose of what? Protecting people. When you listened to the Kirchners, for example, hell, even going back to Eva Perón, the Peronistas, they all cared about the people. The people were the primary concern, help the workers. But every BS socialist intervention that Argentina took made the people poorer. I visited Argentina twice. I haven't been there since Javier Milei took power. I was there in the years where there was really devastating economic melees. I saw it. Beautiful country, beautiful buildings, lovely people. The capacity to do great things and to be great was there. I mean, to the extent that you care about genetics and sort of the resourcefulness of the type of people that come there. I know there's a joke that, of course, all the ex-Nazis went to South America. Ha, 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 ha. But even before World War II, Argentina is a nation of immigrants and of some of the most industrious, hardworking, smart, capable people from around the world. They've got Jews, they've got Russians, they've got Armenians, they've got Eastern Europeans, they've got Western Europeans. They're a country built on immigration from Europe, primarily. And you can see the influence in the architecture, everything, but also the industriousness is there. These are the people that took risks, who traveled by boat across oceans to get there, right? All right. So you go there, you realize this is a country that could be something. Now, notice the mainstream media does not talk about Argentina anymore. They did when Javier Milei with his chainsaw was running for president. Everybody was freaking out in the media. Oh my gosh, the stuff he's saying, it's going to cause a collapse. Remember the dire warnings? Some of these same economists whispering in Fed Chairman Powell's ear about the perils of Trump's economic policies were also on television day and night, bemoaning what would happen if Argentina should, the great danger, Javier Milei, be elected president. What were some of Milei's promises? He wanted to cut basically the welfare state. He wanted to cut government. He wanted to cut entire ministries. Oh my gosh, you can't cut the ministry of women? What's going to happen? Women are going to disappear. And it went like this. It was just hysteria. And we were talking about our own problems here with Biden, and we checked in on it once in a while here, Robbie. We did. But I didn't talk a lot about it because, whatever. But I got to come back to this, folks. Argentina is reawakening. Milei went in and absolutely cleaned house. The deregulation that he talked about on the campaign trail, the utter disgust and contempt that he has for communists, socialists, and miscellaneous leftists, he put into power and effect. He cleaned vast government agencies. He wiped them of people. He dismissed career civil servants en masse. He went in with that chainsaw, metaphorically speaking, and pruned the entire state. And the result is spectacular. Argentina's economy posted a 7.6% year-over-year growth rate in the second quarter in Q2 of 2025. This is its strongest in nearly 2 decades and literally the result of deregulation, sharp cuts to public spending, and the loosening of currency controls. You go back to The Guardian in 2023, economists warning elected far-right Milei will spell devastation for Argentina. Aren't you ever curious that the left is so obsessed with trusting the experts? I mean, we talked a lot about this in the context of COVID. Remember the experts, the COVID experts? Here in Nevada, there were experts that were advising Governor Sisolak every day. They were meeting. They were all around a large table, masked and socially distanced. They labored over stats, over numbers. They were advising him. And when Sisolak would get texts, and I'm privy to this because I know some of the people involved, when he would get angry texts from former donors, and I say former donors because they all told him to sod off when he was running for re-election, former donors were like, what are you doing? Reopen the state. He goes, you wouldn't believe the experts I'm talking to. And he'd write this in text messages. When I call Sisolak, old Steve, an idiot, I am privy to some stuff that he wrote in those days. Because some of these people, these business owners and these, titans of industry around town, happen to be friends of mine, would show me these texts, like it was bad. I don't think I'm throwing anybody under the bus here because Sisolak is out, but he's thinking about coming back. But my point is this, right? The silly adherence that the left has to the experts. You know what the difference fundamentally is between Republicans and Democrats, conservatives, Republicans, right versus left? We on the right trust our gut instincts, life experience, and history. The left, and it ties into the conversation about Mamdani and about socialism and the rise of Gen Z supporting socialists. Over 60% of Gen Z, according to the latest Cato poll, showing that they love socialism, think of it favorably. Well, one thing that really ties into this is this idea that for a socialist, it's almost like they're like goldfish. For them, life started today, right now. Last year doesn't matter. 10 years ago doesn't matter. 100 years ago doesn't matter. They'll only use the past and they'll rewrite it. They'll retool it. They'll come up with a new narrative only to serve their momentary whim. Okay? 10-second Tom, goldfish, whatever, just keep swimming, the little Dory, from Finding Nemo. Where am I? I don't know. I'm a Democrat. These experts, just look in the moment. They don't look in the past. Every one of these economists, I wonder, Robbie, where did they find these economists? What the hell are they looking at? Everywhere deregulation comes in, everywhere where you unleash the power of the free market, prosperity follows. It happens. And it happens over and over and over again. And the history is replete with examples of great successes. But they ignore all that. I guess Sisolak's experts on COVID didn't look at past pandemics or didn't look at the economic impact, historically of shutting down an entire economy. Didn't look at, for example, September 11th and what that did to our economy, shutting down for airports and air travel for as long as they were down. Like all this stuff, none of it got ever plugged in, right? It was always trust the experts. Don't think about it, Sam. Don't think about it. You're not allowed to question the experts. And then you go back. I did this, and I if you haven't done this in a while, I urge you, go back and reread 1984. Especially in the wake of the COVID years, especially in the wake of 2021 to 2025, the Biden experiment. You will see some eerie echoes of that. Meaning, again, everything that these people are presenting as new, as fancy, as shiny, as tempting, have been tried and tried and tried again. And now they want to try it again. Meanwhile, the experts say Javier Milei is going to tank Argentina. Not so fast. A country resurrected by principles of free market reform. Who would have thunk? Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I'll be back in a moment, folks. Do not turn the dial. Here for your listening and edification pleasure by order of Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Yeah, I know. We've got to play the Powell clip. Trump goes, puts on a hard hat, goes to the Federal Reserve. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT. Trump went there yesterday. We didn't have time to cover it during the show, but today, look, better late than never. He goes on, puts on his hard hat. He's like, I got to check out this $2.5 billion renovation of the Federal Reserve. Here's what's funny, right? The Federal Reserve supposedly fully independent, and Trump, as the president and the head of the federal government, can't tell the Federal Reserve what to do. But when the Federal Reserve wants to rehab and renovate its building, guess what? Who pays for it? Oh, suddenly we're not so independent anymore. So Trump's going in there. He's like, what are you doing? What are you spending all this money for? And you see the news covering for it. You see the people, well, there's asbestos, there's lead, there's this, there's that. $2.5 billion. You don't have to be a real estate developer to know there's something fishy about that, right? Right? So Trump Trump goes down there, and it's the visual, folks, always the visual, because not everybody listens, but people watch. Look at this clip. Trump, the dog, the mad alpha dog, and honestly, Jerome Powell here looks like, at best, a Bichon Frise.
Well, thank you very much. We're looking at the construction, and we're with the chairman, as you know. Chairman, come on over. And we're just taking a look at what's happening.
Okay, so he tells him, come on over. I'm sorry, I'm pausing the tape. Look at the look on Powell's face. He made him stand next to him just so we can see how itty-bitty little beta energy the chairman of the Federal Reserve is. This is a guy who is a thorn in the side of Trump's, but actually a thorn in the side of the entire U.S. economy right now, holding us all hostage, waiting to crash the housing market, destroy us all just so he can and his friends can have a talking point that Trump's economy blows. Well, it just keeps getting better from here.
What's happening? It's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed. One of the reasons I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now.
He's like, it looks like it's 3.1 billion, and Powell's shaking his head no. This is so good.
Now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah,
I'm not aware of that. Looking up at Trump. The Bichon Frise has spoken.
It just came out.
Yeah, I
Trump pulls out a piece of paper.
Our said about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2. This came from us?
Here,
yes.
Powell just pulled out his readers, his glasses from his pocket. He got ambushed on live television. Don't mess with the Trump. Boy, remember, Trump doesn't want to fire him. This is the background here. Doesn't want to fire him, but he absolutely is going to make his life a living hell.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building,
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
Oh, you're including another building. Oh, well, that was built 5 years. Yeah. So you built another building 5 years ago. Now you're adding all the space to this building. What the flip is the Federal Reserve doing? I mean, this is great. Make this elite expert listening to all the people that know everything, that can trust the experts. Make him explain to Americans who are living not even paycheck to paycheck, who are suffering, why he deserves an office that's being rebuilt for $2.5 billion. The left, right? These government bureaucratic types. It's almost astonishing how unbelievably tone deaf they are. What is the media? By the way, this forces the media, and I watched it last night, and I enjoyed it. It looked at how dare Trump, how dare Trump, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm comfortable. I'm not going to lie. I'm well aware of this. Trump's very comfortable. Trump's a billionaire. Oh, and he's living in the White House, and he's got a penthouse in New York and everything. But Trump understands, as do I, that there are millions and millions of Americans who are actually really struggling, and not by any fault of their own. They're struggling because the last administration didn't understand basic economic principles and trashed the economy, opened the border, flooded the country, all with the effect of making us all less safe, less wealthy, and ultimately more miserable. And whatever the reason was, whatever the motivation, we can set that aside, but that's the reality of it. You see the Democrats, the account of the Democratic Party. The Democrats posted a little thing on Twitter yesterday where they showed the spike in inflation. Look at all the costs are going up in the world. And then I took it and I retweeted it. Thankfully, I saved it because they took it down afterwards. Retweeted and I wrote, oh, like from 2021 to 2025 when Biden was in power? Like, are you serious? Yeah, they had to take it down. We all got poorer. And to listen here to the chairman, this multimillionaire, defend this kind of spending when austerity measures are in effect for American households across the country is just disgusting. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Hi, welcome back. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Now, one of the developments this week, folks, that I want to touch on here for a moment is Trump's AI plan, artificial intelligence. You weren't wondering kind of what this is, by the way? I think a lot of people, it is scary. I'm terrified by it. So explaining it is, I think it's best described in this way. Imagine in the course of your lifetime, all the different experiences and things that you have witnessed, that you have read, that you have studied, that you have pondered, things that people have done to you, things that you've done to people and seen the effects of. Now imagine that you, and I'm not blessed with this, have complete and total and near instantaneous recall of each and every one of those things and are able to, in real time, synthesize all those different pieces of information and combine them precisely when needed. Somebody asks you, well, what would you do if X happened? And you go back and in time, in a flash, can recall every single moment where any of this, similar situation occurred and put together and say, based on it, we should do this, right? It's not like Googling something. When you Google something, when you look something up on the internet, you get different websites, you get different sources. You can see, okay, here's Wikipedia, here's a news article, here's a blog, here's something somebody's put up there. And then you have to go through, you have to read it, you have to decide which source is more credible, and et cetera. You have to realize about 10 pages in that Google has prioritized a bunch of left-leaning content, And then you have to apply your own experience and sort of sort through it, right? And for years, doing show prep and following the news, that's exactly what I would do. Now, I'll tell you in a moment here, how I use AI. I'll be upfront about that because there is a place for it. And there's some things that it does very well, and there's a lot it doesn't do well at all yet. But put simply, right? AI is what I just described, but at scale, with huge data centers. Imagine a computer that has read every book there is to read. Every book. I don't know that there is an AI model out there that has had every book loaded into it. Maybe some of them now have, but that's what's going to happen. AI is only limited at this point by the speed of processors and the available storage, memory. There's a reason why NVIDIA, the chip making company, is they are like more valuable than Google now. Going through the roof. There's a reason why, these data centers are being built everywhere. It's limited only by the amount of bytes of storage you can store in a given location and cobbled together through the speed of the internet too, that matters. And of course, the processing speed. And as we get into quantum computing, which is another thing that gets thrown about, all of this stuff will happen faster and faster. Quantum computing, by the way, best way to explain it is that, if you've got bytes of data that are getting processed, they're binary, right? They're like coins, right? You flip the coins, heads or tails, and they flip and they form different permutations and they cycle through information this way, okay? And quantum computing has been explained to me as, Sam, imagine that each of those coins can be either heads or tails or both at any given moment. And all of a sudden, it will pour through that many more permutations, combinations, et cetera, than previously before. It carries with it its own risk, by the way. For example, breaking people's passwords will be a lot easier, when quantum computing goes mainstream. So, we'll have to come up with a whole new way of protecting our data, Bitcoin, et cetera. It's going to be fascinating. But AI is like a person with the most unbelievable brain that remembers everything, has read everything, has experienced everything. Literally, the entire known, recorded human existence can be loaded into this brain, and you ask it a question. It can spit out an answer. Now, still in its infancy, but you can imagine how powerful something like this is. Also, it can perform tasks. So I use it, for example, I have to write occasionally business emails in Czech to people, back over in the Czech Republic in Prague. And I'm fluent in Czech and I can speak it, I think, pretty well. But sometimes writing a long business email with legalese in it even is a problem for me. So I will, I'll draft an email either in Czech first, and with mistakes and everything, and I'll run it through Grok, for example, and it will perfectly edit it. Now it makes errors, and I catch those errors because I know the language, and I'll go, that's not exactly right, but then I can. It saves me every time I write an email. It probably saves me 30 minutes. Easily. I can pound something out in 5 to 10 minutes that previously would take me 30 or 40. Where I maybe would have to even send it to my dad or, somebody to help me edit it. Not saying I replaced my father with AI. I'm just saying that, it helps with that kind of thing. There are examples of using it. And I'll tell you from a software perspective, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I started years ago a software company that builds computer software for personal injury lawyers. Okay, it's called CasePeer, and the way software works, the graphic user interface. We call it GUI. Basically a program like Caspear, any kind of, client management, business management software is going to have in it, icons, fields that get filled in, and it's essentially a database that organizes everything in. It's like a virtual filing cabinet. That's all it does. An AI version of my program, and I'm not giving anything away here, but this is what I want to do, is where right now a case manager, a client success coordinator in my firm will come in and go, okay, these are the things I have to do. Then he or she goes into the system. The attorney's the same thing. Here's what I have to do today. I got to call these, whatever. I've got to address these things. They know. They go in and they use the program to find information. The way it's going to be in a short amount of time is they sit down at the desk and the computer tells them what their 5 priorities are for the day. Because the computer system knows everything about every file, and they know everything about court rules, and they know about the history of the firm and how we like to do things and all that. And the computer knows what person, how many times a particular client called in a given month, and when they expect a phone call back, what's the best time to call the client. And the computer will literally say, good morning, Sam. By 9 o'clock, you need to talk to these 3 people. By 10 o'clock, you've got these 3. And between 3 and 5, you need to call these 2 clients and handle these 3 things and optimize my day, making me, of course, more efficient and delivering an incredible client experience to customers of my firm. People often ask, Sam, why is your firm different? Well, one of the reasons is that ownership actually understands technology and uses it for the benefit of our clients. Now, we're not there yet, but that's doable. What I just described is doable, and it's really right now just a question of my bandwidth to get it happening. It won't be perfect, but I think a beta version of this could happen within a year. That's AI. It's fascinating. And Trump is right to insist that we dominate in the space. Here he is Wednesday at All In, the Hill and Valley Forum, talking about allowing small businesses to contribute to the AI race. Hugely important stuff, and I'm glad he's bringing it up.
The reason the last administration was so eager to regulate and restrict AI was so they could limit this technology to just a few large companies, allowing them to centralize it, censor it, control it, weaponize it. And they would weaponize a very dishonest group of people. You probably saw that because we caught them in the act. We really caught them. We had it before, but now we really have them. We have it where it counts. But this is the exact opposite of my approach. The unique strength of the American tech industry has always come from its startups and small tech. It comes through small. Jensen was small. Were you ever small? I think so. When you started in your bedroom, I think you were small, right? He started as very small, and now he's really become very amazing. If you regulate them too much, you kill the source of American genius and technological power. I believe that. Joe Biden had a plan to lose the AI race. I think he wanted to lose it because his plan would never have worked. It would have never been successful. You would have spent a lot of money, and you wouldn't have been able to win. They didn't allow you to win, but we have a plan which only admires and respects the winners.
The reason that Joe Biden wanted us to lose the AI race because he wanted countries that don't have the First Amendment and that are far more socialist to win it, because back to the brain that I described, it does matter what biases it has. It does. And Joe Biden, the Biden administration, the Democratic Party never wanted AI to be an American capitalist brain. They wanted it to be a European socialist brain that would be able to feed the next 5, 6, 7 generations of Americans the gunk required to maintain the Democratic Party's control. Again, when you look at it, everything the Democrats do is about party political control. None of it is about competitiveness, about the economy, about creating wealth for individuals. It's all about their party control. So when we talk about AI, Understand it's a powerful tool. Understand it will bring a lot of benefits. It can also be misused in some very significant ways. We'll talk about that next. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Tech Forward, yes, and conservative law firm Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Greetings, friends, and welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Okay, the AI race is on. If you missed the last segment, I'm not going to repeat it, but go to the podcast, please. What's Right show, wherever you get your podcast, on Spotify, on YouTube, and on X. You can actually see the Sam Cam. Look at me. I'm real. I'm a real boy. Just like Pinocchio. No strings attached. Okay. I don't want to get into the whole story, but I'm explaining what AI is. So I got into that there. And Trump promises that he wants AI to be American, for America to imprint on AI. It's very important because if we don't do it, if we adopted the same plan that the Biden people have to just let, Europe, for example, handle AI, what will happen instead is China will take AI over, right? They're going to take it over. And then guess what? Every piece of information and learning and whatnot and how things are done are going to be for the benefit of the Chinese Communist Party globally. We're talking about a super brain that human beings will increasingly rely on to make things happen. Now, I think, Robbie, that one of the challenges with AI, and I've been thinking about this a lot, because the problem right now, and I'm hearing this, I just was at a event, gathering here for the Board of Governors of Chapman University. I sit on the board of Chapman, and I love Chapman University in Orange, California. And, I'm talking to some professors at this event, and everybody's lamenting that the kids in class are just using AI, right? They're using ChatGPT, they're using Grok, whatever, to write entire essays. You can give Grok AI a prompt. Again, what is AI? Like a super brain that knows everything, has read every book, has read every article, has all the information. You can say, hey, write me a 10-page paper on Franz Kafka. And it will write you literally a 10-page paper on Franz Kafka. Now, I know me, circa 1995, and if I had this kind of technology at my disposal as a 15-year-old high school student prone to severe procrastination, I would have used it. There's no doubt. And I say that, I'm just being honest with you. I probably would have used it. And so these kids are using it, college kids, high school kids, etc., even in elementary school and middle school now. And, I think that education will have to change and evolve a little bit. And one of the things that we need to go back to is teaching in class in the Socratic method. Okay, everybody, computers away. You're not taking notes. Take down your Ray-Ban glasses, your earpieces, everything. Sit down. Kids, let's ask you questions, because what AI will make us lazier. I read something about GPS. And by the way, Robbie, this is you in a nutshell. Something about producer Robbie I'm going to share here. Fascinating. He has to use maps to get everywhere, or Google Maps, whatever. He has to, he's reliant. I don't know if you still are, but you've always been very reliant on Google Maps. And it fascinates me because you're just the super most competent guy in every way. But I read a study that Google Maps, GPS, basically, ever since we had an advent of turn-by-turn navigation systems, which started around 2000, that The more you use it, the dumber you get on sort of spatial reasoning, right? Goes to figure. Well, the same is going to be true for AI. 100%. When I sit down and I have to write a paper, the point of it is for me to learn how to write, but how to organize my thoughts. Whenever I sit down to write something, that's when I really start to think. I'll tell you, and I'm very candid here. The more I do my own show prep, the more I outline the show myself, which I don't always have the time to do. Okay, because I got this day job, I got a law firm to run, I got stuff going on. The more I do it myself, the better the show is, because I've thought through these things. So my fear, one of my biggest fears for AI, is that we'll stop thinking because kids will stop writing. And in the alternative, you need to put kids, people on their toes. Here at the firm at Sam & Ash, one thing I do is when we have meetings, and for example, with our support staff, we have a weekly meeting, and I just ask them questions. So what would you do? And I'll deliberately ask even the newest people, somebody who's been here a month, let's say, and they're just learning. And I'll ask them, what would you do? And they go, I don't know. And I said, well, of course I know you don't know. This is an advanced question I'm asking you. But what do you think the answer is? I do this in interviews, by the way, and I typically do not hire anyone who can't synthesize some form of an answer or take a guess, because that's not somebody who has critical thinking. To be good in a law firm, to handle cases well, to help people get better and go through the process, you need people who can think critically. And critical thinking means that you are like the AI program, taking things that you know, but unlike the AI program, filling the gaps of what you don't with your own theory. And by the way, AI is evolving into that. And that's where, by the way, sentiency and beginning to evolve into some sort of, essentially a thinking, feeling entity is possible. Very scary. But we need to force young people to think. You don't know the answer, so how do we get to what the answer could be? In law school, they teach with the Socratic method. The Socratic method is exactly this. They ask you questions and you go, let me think, I got it. What's the answer? What's the argument? What do I say? So I'm going to stay on this. Trump clearly understands this. He's got some of the best and the brightest in the country working on the AI challenge. But I just, I'm letting you know, I think about it a lot too. And I'm glad that this administration is taking it seriously. All right, friends, have a great weekend. I will see you again on Monday. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, over and out.